And welcome to By the Way with Beth and Jim today instead of Beth and Stacy.
Yep, Mr. Stacy Earleywine.
That's right.
Yep.
Stacy's on the beach somewhere.
Yeah, the irreplaceable Stacy. I'm trying to do my best.
You're doing good. You're doing a great job.
But now, yeah, I don't. Like I said, don't know how that happens.
Yeah, well, she's with her sisters and she's having fun.
Okay,
and
that reminds me. She's with her sisters, so I'm better off being here.
Yeah.
I love my sister-in-laws. Don't get me wrong.
I bet they're having a wild time down there on the beach.
Yeah, I just said, you better leave me some money in case you need bail because I'm a kept man. And so if she wants to get bailed out, she better leave me some cash.
I'm sure she'll be fine. She won't get into any serious trouble.
No, they're having a ball.
Yeah. So welcome to By the Way. We do the show every week, and we are always talking about fun things from history. Today's topic maybe isn't quite fun, but it is interesting.
Yes.
We are going to talk about death and mourning. That's why I'm all in black. Yeah, Jim's in dark clothes too. So we're talking about the Victorian period in the 1800s and how they mourned all over the world, not just in Clay County, but we're going to touch a little bit on Clay County too. But we always try to start the show off with something from the past, something like an old ad or catalog. And Stacy's the one that always drums up these really cool finds. I did find one though. I think, Ty, can you throw that up there on the screen for me? I don't have it right in front of me, but this I thought was hilarious. Odorono. Odorono. This is annoyed by perspiration? Nonsense. This toilet water corrects excessive perspiration under the arms, protecting clothing from stains and dampness. Try it tonight on hands, feet, forehead, neck, or armpits, wherever perspiration is excessive or annoying. 3 applications a week will give complete relief. Odorono. First of all, I love whoever named this. Odorono, like, oh no. Odor.
Oh no.
50 cents and $1. Trial size is $0.25. Get your bottle today at any toilet counter. What's a toilet counter? Like a
perfume counter.
Oh, okay.
'Cause they call it toilet water.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's perfume. It's not really deodorant. It's perfume. What is this?
Well, it says it protects your clothing.
But you only have
stains.
to put it on 3 times a week.
So it must clog your pores or something. I don't know.
Odor, oh no, they all have cancer.
Yeah,
no.
Oh yeah, odor. Yeah,
I mean, what's in it, you think?
It's amazing. It's amazing vanity. How much product that we use comes out of just vanity. We've set a standard now that if you have stains under your armpits, which is a very natural thing, right? I don't understand. There's these people that go all natural and they don't wear deodorant and things like that. But
I'm a fan of deodorant.
Yeah, who's the hunk actor that's in all of the? He was
Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yes,
he's supposed to be one of those that's all natural. He doesn't wear deodorant, and the thing it's like. Of course, all the women swoon over him, but then when he comes by, it's like, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, no thanks.
But
there's a lot of toxins in deodorant and antiperspirant, so I get why some people are like, maybe steer clear. There's been a lot of rumors about whether that's connected to breast cancer
or Alzheimer's because of the aluminum in it.
Yes, and as a breast cancer survivor, I can tell you that I still wear deodorant and antiperspirant, but I do try to buy the ones that don't have aluminum in them.
Well, there may be something to it.
That's the best I can do. I'm not giving it up.
I don't know what the ingredients of Odorono are, but
I don't even want to know. Probably. But sometimes if you mask like BO with perfume, it's like even worse.
Yeah,
have you ever experienced that?
You mix the two.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be what's going on with Odorono.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know how Febreze captures the bad elements. And you only smell the good.
Yes.
But
yeah, I don't know. But I have went nose blind. I lost my sense of smell with COVID in 2020.
Okay.
And I can only smell like 3 or 4 things now.
Really? Still?
Yes, still after all these years. I can smell gasoline. I can smell coffee, which is like the only good one that I like. So I try to buy body washes and stuff that smell like coffee. Okay. Because if I don't, then I can't smell like I smell clean because I don't smell anything. I want to smell clean.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I can smell is smoke. And sometimes the weird thing is I smell smoke when no one else does.
Okay.
And that's extremely weird to wake up in the middle of the night and feel like your house is burning down, but there's nothing there. So anyway, fun fact.
Odors. Yep. Mm-hmm. I remember one time I saw some ad for something, and it was it almost looked like a crystal as a ball. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be a mineral.
Okay.
And you rub that mineral on your armpits, and it
takes away your scent.
Supposed to have. And
did it work?
I think it did. I think it did. At least in my mind, it did. And I don't. Maybe I.
Ooh, the power of suggestion.
Maybe. But then I dropped it and it shattered, and shards of crystal under your armpits doesn't work. So,
oh my gosh, where'd you buy that at?
It was some fly-by-night gimmicky catalog.
Gypsy in the night.
Yeah, or
came by and sold it.
I don't know. And but it supposedly it was supposed to be a natural thing, and
well, it probably was, and it probably worked, and then Big Pharma probably came down and
then
shut them down.
Conspiracy theory.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why they're okay.
We won't go there.
Let's not go there.
We won't go there, but you never know. Okay, so we're going to talk today about death and mourning, which it was a daily occurrence back then in the 1800s.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
None of us here can get out of this alive.
We're not. And everybody died, and they had a certain way of doing things that I think that we would find interesting today. And that's why we're going to talk about it.
I think
and odd.
I do. Because sometimes I think past the whole tradition and how did this happen,
right.
and then why do we carry these things on?
Right.
It's odd.
But people were big on tradition.
Yes.
They really were.
Or
and that's just all they knew. So why change?
Yes. Or I guess I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know if it's tradition or if it's just this is the method that we do. Somebody's come up with this way of doing things, and then it catches on, and then everybody's supposed to do it that way.
Right.
And then it just sticks, and it's like, okay, does it really have any special meaning? It's like, no, somebody did it, and now we all think we have to do it that way, and so we do.
Right. And that can be said about a lot of things.
Yes.
But I think that is true with how they mourned.
Yes.
And I think probably some people felt like mourning this way, and others, mourning is a very personal thing.
It is.
So for you to be mandated, like you have to do this, this, and this, it might work for some of them, but not all. But anyway, there were definitely some double standards, and we're going to get to those here in a minute. But so, there was no antibiotics back then. The death rate was very high. Victorians were not known for cleanliness. They did not bathe daily. So when we talk about Victorians, we're talking about the 1800s, the 19th century. So anywhere from like 1800 to 1899-ish is kind of considered Victorian. It's called the Victorian age because of Queen Victoria.
Okay.
And she, if you've ever researched her, she was a cute little thing. I think she was only like 4'11" or 5 foot. She was not very big. Tall. She was not very tall. She was a little bit wider, but she had a very sad life, and she, if I remember right, she lost a child or two, I think, and her husband at some point. I don't remember the whole story, but anyway, grieving and wearing black and mourning like dates back all the way to the Romans.
Okay.
But Victoria really made it like the standard because she herself dressed in black mourning clothes. And so then in England, everybody loved Victoria. I mean, she was a very well-loved woman. And they just all kind of, it became even more of a thing then than it had been previously.
Black seems so natural, I mean, for death. I guess because it's such a dark thing.
Yes.
It's scary to a lot of people. A lot of people are afraid of it, and you talk about you're going to the darkness. The Grim Reaper, he's always in black.
Right. Yes.
So I guess black would be the natural color that you would pick.
Yes.
As opposed to some vibrant,
Right. No, you don't want vibrant or happy. And I think there's truth in the whole, like, colors. Certain colors give you certain feelings. Yes. Like light blue is calming, and, red is like a lot of happiness, excitement, energy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bring that to mind. And like I said, in sports teams, the visiting locker rooms, they'll paint them a real calming color.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You go to. I've heard about that. Like they'll paint them like a pastel blue or a pink.
Oh.
So when the team goes in there, they don't get amped up. It calms them down. So hopefully they don't come out.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I read a whole book in college once about color psychology.
So
and
black,
like how it plays a role and you don't realize it.
And I guess whenever, funny story, worked with an engineer at NL years and years and years ago. Come in one day, he was an odd duck.
Uh-huh.
Dressed from head to toe, white.
Okay.
White shirt, white tie, white pants, white belt.
Hope he's not watching the show.
White, no, I don't. He probably's not.
Okay.
White shoes. I mean, white.
He sounds like Colonel Sanders.
Something happened in the middle of the day. He went home for lunch, came back, all black. Black shirt, black tie, black pants, black.
What happened?
I don't know. Somebody made him mad. He went from Mr. Happy and wearing Mr. Clean to black from head to toe. I can remember seeing it. And
wow.
That was his attitude. That was his mood.
So he wore his mood in his exterior clothing.
That day
he showed it.
He showed it in that day because it was like, okay, somebody ticked me off, and I want the world to know it.
Wow.
So he went from white to black.
To the man in black.
Yeah.
Huh? Little Johnny Cash in the house.
There you go.
Okay, so basically, when somebody died back then, it was usually in their own house. I mean, there wasn't hospitals, any of that.
Makes sense.
But did you know that many of the old houses had sick rooms? I didn't either. I didn't know that until I read this little book on the whole Victorian mourning and death thing. And they had a sick room in the back of the house, and they used it for birthing and illnesses. And it had its own separate entrance from the outside.
Beginning of life to end of life.
Yeah. But that way the doctor could come and go and not disrupt the whole house. He came in the back.
All right.
And it kept the illness isolated.
Okay.
Which is pretty smart.
Well,
I didn't really realize that
unless you got somebody dying and you got somebody needing to give birth right away. And you got a dead person in there with a newborn.
Well, then surely common sense would kick in and they would not use the same room, surely.
I don't know.
Back then, honestly, anything could have went. But anyway, okay, so when we get back from commercial break, we're going to dive into this whole mourning idea of the 1800s. So We'll be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas,
What?
you better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
And welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Jim. We have Jim filling in for Stacy today because she's on the beach with her sisters.
Yes.
So because we're sad she's gone, we're going to talk about sad things today.
Yes,
we're talking about death.
I'm mourning her absence.
Okay.
And if I'm not, I should be.
You should be.
She tells me I should be.
Yes. Well, just pretend it. If you're not, just act like you are.
I've learned that.
Okay, yes. Okay, so we're talking about when a person dies at home. They, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times had a sick room in the back where after they died, they would wash them, dress them, usually by a family member or a servant. But sometimes they had people come around and they were paid $1 and they were called layers of the dead. Okay. And they were women that came around and like got your dead body prepared by dressing it and stuff. Okay, so once they laid out the body, they had vigil. And the vigil schedule was arranged so that someone was always there with the body. And in warm weather, the face and the hands of the dead had to be wiped down with vinegar water to keep the skin from discoloring and turning black. And within 24 hours, a family member or close friend was appointed to carry out the wishes of the family in organizing the funeral. So I didn't realize that, they weren't embalming them, right? At this time, I don't think so. I don't think so. So they just wiped them down with vinegar water. And somebody had to sit there. And I think that's creepy.
Yeah.
Sit there in the viewing room, like my shift's from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. I'm going to go sit with Gladys.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, and then you're probably going to talk about this more later, but there were people that they weren't dead. They weren't dead. They were basically in a coma type of thing.
I'm not talking about that later, so go ahead.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they would die, and their heartbeat was non-recordable or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, and that's why they call them dead ringers. Have you heard dead ringers?
Yes.
And there was some of this information in here that
okay.
They designed coffins with a rope that was inside the coffin, and it ran up into a bell. And that's why you were on the midnight shift, is that people had to sit in the graveyards, and if that bell started ringing, that person had come back to life, and they had to go dig them up because they were burying people alive.
Oh my gosh!
And they didn't know it because I think what was pewter was a material that they made mugs out of.
Yes.
And if you drink like alcohol or beer out of pewter, it would knock you out.
Oh, and they thought they were dead.
They'd find them alongside the road, and they thought they were dead. And that's why they have a wake. So they laid them in the room, and they waited for them to wake up. And if they didn't wake up after so many days, they would go into this whole process.
But if they didn't wake up and they weren't rubbing them with vinegar and they weren't turning black, wouldn't that have been a clue that they were still alive? Like, this body is not turning black.
Well,
this body still has color after 7 days.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
there's some people that are thinking, okay, this person's special. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but that when they buried the saints, okay, when you were considered a saint, if you were buried and you didn't decompose, then you were truly a saint.
Oh.
And so maybe they thought these people were something I don't know. That's something I heard. Maybe I've quoted it incorrectly. I don't know.
Huh.
But, yeah, this whole thing about the wake was people were waiting, and that's why they said they had to wait. And I saw something on here, too, where they would hold a mirror up to their nose to see if there was breath and different things, or they would wait for them to see if they came back. So there was a whole process to this. Now, if they're dead and the body's not working, the heart's not pumping, and the fluid's not moving, it's going to decay.
Right.
And it's going to stink. When blood spoils, it smells really bad.
Yes.
I mean, and that's what they talked about in the Bible when his friend Lazarus died, and they said he's been in there 4 days. It's going to smell bad.
Yes.
And that's his sisters was like, don't roll that stone away. It's going to stink. And that's why they tried to anoint the bodies with the oils and the minerals and things to try to keep it from smelling. So these people were probably doing this to keep the odors down. And I noticed there was cooling boards and things like that they used to keep them, trying to keep the body from decaying faster. So, but that would be a creepy job.
That would be a creepy job.
You said they were layers of the dead?
Layers of the dead. I mean, even the title.
So, what do you do? I'm a layer of the dead. And you have to say it with that.
Layer of the dead. Okay, so let's talk about the day of the funeral. Most funerals were held at the house of the home, wherever the person lived. And the service was sometimes at a church, but most often at the house. Funeral homes hadn't really started so much yet. And then the service was brief, and then it was always held in the graveyard following the procession, which the word graveyard. So someone once explained to me the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery. Do you know the difference?
Well, no, I didn't until I read this information.
Oh, is it in there?
I think so. Yeah, there was something in here about graveyards, cemeteries.
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, graveyards are attached to a churchyard, while cemeteries are just their own plot of land with no church.
Okay.
That's the difference. So if you see a cemetery that's next to a church and part of the church, that's technically a graveyard.
A graveyard.
At least that's how it was explained to me.
And cemeteries.
And cemeteries are just like out on their own.
Because it talked about here, too, about how when they were burying people, of course, the coffins, sometimes they were just buried without anything.
Yeah.
Caskets were invented later. Coffins and caskets. So you were just wrapping people up and putting them in the ground. Mm-hmm. Well, that decomposing body, when you put several of those in an area, that would leach into
their water system, right? Is that what you're going to say? Yeah. Yucko. Can you imagine? Like your water is bad because of all the dead bodies buried in your neighborhood?
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so now, so here again, we talked about inventions last episode, and now we invent the casket and we invent the vault that we put people in.
Yes.
So it contains all that. Of course, now, today, like you said, they're not embalming these people.
Right.
Which we embalm them now.
Right.
So that takes out all those fluids and it takes out all those things that decay and decompose. But, yeah, it was polluting their water system.
Mm-hmm. I have written down that the rural cemetery movement came to America in the 1830s. So in 1831 and 32, the first pastoral public cemeteries were designed.
So they moved them
in
off
Boston, away from where everyone was living.
Yes.
And the same thing with Flora. Like Elmwood Cemetery was our big cemetery. At the time, that was probably a mile from town.
Oh, yeah.
In 1854, when they first started it.
We've grown up around it.
We've grown up around it. It's kind of in town now, but we don't have to worry about the water because that's all taken care of. But back then, before they had sewer systems and water systems and embalming, it was a messy deal.
Yes.
And one that kind of makes my stomach turn a little bit, to be really frank about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, also during the 19th century, gravestones were usually made from slate, all the way up until the 1840s. And then in the 1850s, around that time, marble became preferred because of the durability.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes. So what I found the most interesting about all of this was the way that they dressed.
Okay. So
whenever someone died, especially, we're going to talk about the differences between what women were expected to wear, men and children. Okay, so let's start with women. There were different stages of mourning, and how long that they remained in mourning clothing. It kind of varied by the individual or the community that they were in. Women were responsible for mourning in the family and carried the responsibility of preparing mourning garments and making sure everyone was dressed properly. So as a mother, it would be my job to sew all of the black clothes together for everybody in the family and to make sure they wore them every day. Even though little Johnny might want to put on his favorite blue pants, I had to fight with him to make sure he only wore the black ones. To everything for a long time. So let's go over like the times. So the mourning stages. A widow for her husband, she was supposed to wear black for a year and a day, at least a year and a day.
Wow.
To life. Some women decided to do it the rest of their life. Okay? That's a widower for her husband. A widower for a wife, 3 to 6 months. Only 3 to 6 months, and sometimes less than that, sometimes only weeks, because it was his responsibility to remarry and have children and find a mother for his children that he already has with the wife that died.
Okay.
So he was to go out and find another one immediately, almost.
Okay.
Okay, whereas the woman, although she could also be remarried down the road, it's not as important for her to go find a man. So she is not supposed to do that for a while, a year and a day, to life.
Now, I know in the book of Acts it talks about how, we're supposed to take care of our widows and children.
Yes.
So I imagine that was still carrying over, that when if you were widowed, you weren't necessarily supposed to go find another man, but
the community was to help take care of you.
The community was supposed to help take. So if you're wearing black,
they would know to bring you some extra food.
I can't imagine the community wouldn't know that. I mean, even if you lived in a city back then, people kind of knew each other around the neighborhood. But,
yeah.
Okay, so, all right. I get it.
Yeah. So a parent for a child, 6 to 12 months is how long you were to wear black. Which I believe that would be the hardest one to mourn. Yes. I can't imagine losing a child, and that particular case might actually bring me to wear black the rest of my life.
I could see that, yes.
I could see that more than for husband. Nothing against my husband. I love him dearly. But at least he grew up to be an adult and lived, you know.
And he didn't come from you.
Right.
You didn't birth him.
I didn't birth him.
You married him.
I married him.
He was responsible for helping you have children, but you did not birth him.
Right.
For a woman, I'm a man. I don't get the, but I understand.
But you have children.
I have children, but I understand my wife's attachment to them is different than mine. I love my children. Don't get me wrong. But she birthed them.
Yes.
And she'll throw that in my face a lot.
Okay, child for a parent, 6 to 12 months. So you had to wear black if your parent died, if you were a child and your parent died for 6 to 12 months. For a grandparent, 6 months. For an aunt or uncle, 3 months. And for a cousin, 6 weeks. Okay, so we're going to have to take a commercial break here in a couple minutes, but I'm going to talk a little bit about full mourning. Ty, do I have a picture of a woman dressed for full mourning there? Yes. So here we go. This is immediately following a death. Wore all black with a black veil over their bonnet.
I got to ask a question.
Yes.
Are these two women actually dead?
No.
Because they're kind of creepy looking.
They are kind of creepy. No, they're alive.
Okay.
They're very sad and sullen, though. I mean, who knows what happened.
I get that. No, that's mourning. But,
I know, yeah.
But
it is kind of creepy.
Sorry, I didn't
And
mean
they
to
do
interrupt.
look very pale. They're probably from somewhere cold where they don't get a lot of sun. Okay.
That was full mourning.
Full mourning. Black veil over their bonnet, crepe on their dress, no decorative trims, and something called crepe was used on their cuffs and collars, and the entire ensemble would be black except for their undergarments, which could be white, but some women chose to put black ribbon on even their undergarments. So this is all crepe. I think it's kind of like a tulle type. I don't think it's comfortable. I think it's kind of itchy, and it's interesting to me that they put it on their collars and their cuffs, the itchiest spots.
Well, like we were talking, though, I wonder if this goes clear back to the biblical times where they put on sackcloth.
Yeah.
And sackcloth was that way. When somebody died, they would put on sackcloth, and it was an irritating. And they had to wear it against their skin. It wasn't that you just put it on.
So they wanted you to be miserable.
I guess, to remind you, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm wondering if this is this because they talked about putting on their undergarments. Well, their undergarments are worn against their skin, and that stuff, it says it's itchy.
Yeah.
It's,
The veil hung anywhere from shoulder to mid-calf, and their parasol, their bonnet, their gloves, their shoes, their boots, everything had to be black. The only contrast would be a lady's white handkerchief, but she had to border it in black. And that's full mourning. But it's already time to take a commercial break, so we'll be right back.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank. We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online bank, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be.
Clay County State Bank.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
It's the weekend and your symptoms are worsening. The morning of a big meeting and you have a bigger sore throat. Ever experienced that urgency after picking up your sick child and your community health center has already closed? You will be able to connect to a provider at crhpc.org. Even if you have never been to CRHPC, you are welcome to utilize our services. Feel better after scheduling a video visit with CRHPC.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Jim Earleywine, joining me today to replace his lovely wife for the week. So we're talking about mourning, and we're talking about a little bit of death and dying and how they dealt with all of it in the 1800s. So we talked about full mourning and how they had to be completely covered in black, the women. But then eventually they could go to half mourning. I think I have a picture of that as well. Okay, so this family here is in half mourning. They are still wearing black, but they were able to put a little white around their collar. So they're considered half mourning, which is interesting. They just they can't just stop mourning just one day. You have to like slowly ease out of it, apparently.
So I'm curious now. I just piqued my curiosity.
Uh-huh.
If you're not in mourning, are you not to wear black then?
I think not.
So black wasn't an option.
But no, that's not really true either, because like some women back then got married in black dresses.
Okay.
But I think you always had something with it.
Because I was just wondering if now black is just only for mourning clothes.
Well, okay, so we talked on our last show about Goodyear rubber.
Right.
After they invented rubber, they started doing mourning buttons for mourning dresses in 1854. Okay. Solid black rubber buttons to sew on the dresses. Because, if you weren't in full mourning, you could use a white button. You could use it like a tortoise-colored button, or buttons that have a little bit of purple or anything. But, if you were full mourning, it had to be a solid black button as well. So maybe how you could tell if they were in mourning or not was determined by the trim on their dress. If they had a little bit of white on there, they weren't in mourning.
Seems to be becoming really dogmatic about things when you're getting down to even the buttons on your clothing have to be.
It says when a lady was ready to leave deepest mourning, she would stop wearing a veil and remove the crepe from her dress. That's the outside layer that's kind of like tulle, I think. The crepe collars and cuffs were worn for ordinary mourning, but a lady could begin to wear more jewelry, trims on her bonnet in black and white, and decorate dresses with fancy mourning buttons. Okay. So after that, then they went to light mourning, and that they could throw in a little bit of lilac, purple, pale gray, charcoal, anything like that. Okay, so this men had different rules. So the men's rules, the men were expected to continue with their jobs, their businesses, their farms. So if a man lost a wife, he was obligated to return to, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. He was required to return to society quickly. So his mourning was very short. And if a man was rich enough, he could wear a black suit while in mourning and a weeper or crepe band on his hat. And it was usually a top hat. So if a man was rich enough to wear a top hat, he would wrap some of that crepe around it. And that was called a weeper.
Okay. Top hat weepers.
And the interesting thing was when it came to mourning dresses for the children, if your child was age 5 or under, instead of dressing them all in black, you dressed them all in white.
I wonder if that's because of their innocence or...
Yeah, maybe because of their innocence. But I think that'd be hard to keep clean. If you ever known any little kids under the age of 5 to dress them all in white.
Me.
Little boys back then wore dresses until they were old enough for pants. So a lot of times they would have on long white dresses with white crepe. And little girls until about the age of 8 continued to wear white for mourning, although boys went into trousers and wore black. They even had jewelry made specifically for mourning, like certain brooches and crosses and stuff like that. Then they also did this thing called hair remembrance. Have you ever seen one of these things? It is creepy. I was in an antique store in Bell Buckle, Tennessee. For any of you that have ever been to Bell Buckle, it's like an hour outside of Nashville. It's full of antique stores. It's a little bitty town, like Horde-sized town, but it's got this little downtown. They're known for their cafe that's there, and they have a bunch of antique stores. But anyway, there was a hair remembrance in there, and I think they won like $2,000 for it. It was ridiculous. It was the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I thought, who would ever buy this thing? And then I went back exactly 1 year later, and it was gone.
And
so sometime during that time period, some collector came in there and bought it.
And it's a what?
It's called a hair remembrance, and this is what they are. Over a period of time, the family might choose to have a hair ornament or wreath made with hair of the deceased, usually mixed with the hair of family members. Ornamental hair bouquets would be placed under glass domes for display on tables, and wreaths would be framed in shadow boxes to be hung. These were displayed prominently in parlors or bedrooms. So the one that I saw was a wreath. It was probably 12 inches in diameter. It was completely made of brunette hair, lots of it, tied in bows, kind of just frizzy, nasty hair. And it was like set inside of this like wooden shadow box type thing. It was gross. It looked filthy. And it was $2,000. And it was one of those things that makes you go, oh, what? Like, wow. Apparently that is like some antique collectors like want those. Now, if I ever tour a grand old Victorian like Stacey and I love to do, and I walk into a room and it is full of nothing but hair, I'm going to have to leave the room because one of these was enough, and I don't ever want to see someone's entire collection.
So hair...
hair grosses me out a little bit, especially like old, nasty brown hair from some dead body.
And you don't want to be my wife's profession then as a hairdresser.
No, I don't. Like, she comes home with hair in her shirt, she says, and she's like, hang on, I got hair over here and hair over here.
Oh,
and
it's
I'm
all over. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I can't. I can't do that. And I don't want to decorate my home with hair. Even if it's my favorite person in the whole world that passed away, I do not want to decorate my home with their hair.
Yeah, I guess
I just don't.
Hair's not going to decompose, I believe. I mean, it doesn't.
Not very well, I would say.
I don't think it does. That'll be have to question you have to ask my wife when she gets back, but she'll know. But you see, I mean, I guess in movies and stuff when they open up the old crypts and stuff.
Yeah, there's still hair.
Still there. So. It's amazing how something that our body produces from, naturally is something that's not going to decompose.
Yes.
But interesting. But they would make that stuff, I guess, because it would last forever, I guess. I don't know. I guess
a good way to remember them.
I don't have
any. Oh, look at her pretty brown hair. Gross. But it was a thing. I mean, it was a common thing, too. Thankfully, over time, probably all in the 1980s when everybody threw everything away, they got rid of most of those, I bet.
I guess now, you could go back and use it for
DNA. Yeah, you could.
Let's see who,
Yeah, they'll probably take that wreath that was in Bell Buckle and, like, one day use it to, like, clone Mildred from 1854. Okay, so what else were they doing?
That's a whole different spin-off on Jurassic Park, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. So, let's see. I don't want to jump into that yet.
Well, this seems like that. I mean, and again, I know as a kid, and I always noticed people were wearing black to funerals.
Yes.
I being now, preaching and stuff. I've done a few funerals, and nobody's ever told me what I need to wear, but I've always been compelled to wear either black or a dark suit, not something bright or
not one of your Hawaiian shirts.
No,
nope.
I remember one time I was helping the youth group, and we were out, and we were at First Christian over there, and we were going over to somebody had passed away that was involved. Linked to the youth or something. I can't remember. Somebody in the youth. And so we were over there having youth group on a Wednesday night, and we were playing, and we were outside, and I said, okay, let's go over and pay our respects. And we all walked over there, and I had shorts on and a T-shirt. And when I walked in, people looked at me like I was, I had three heads because I wasn't dressed appropriately. I mean, I was there to pay my respects. I'm thinking, why does it matter what I'm wearing? But to people, it's a very important thing. We've got it in our head now.
Yeah, I think people have relaxed a little bit about that, but
they do. But I mean,
I wouldn't take it disrespectful. I'd be like, wow, he took time out of his busy day to come tell me that he's feeling badly for our family now and praying for us or whatever it is you would have said.
And again, we were right in the middle of something and we took time out to go. Now,
sure,
if I had time to get ready, I'm not going to go just in that. But I don't. But every time I go to a funeral, I don't wear a total black suit. And I don't put on a black suit. And a lot of times I won't even put on black slacks or whatever.
No.
I mean, I think we've lowered that. But again, I don't know if that's a requirement of people attending or if it's just family. This was mostly just family, right?
Yeah.
But because I noticed it said here that if you were a nephew or if you were visiting an uncle, you were expected to wear stuff for a period of time. So it's for I don't know if it's just immediate family that had to dress this way or if it was everybody going.
No, I think everyone that attended wore black. Like if they walked through, everyone that attended, but they didn't have to wear any other time.
They didn't have to wear for a year.
No.
Wow.
They also decorated their homes all in black. So they covered this crepe stuff was everywhere. So they not only covered up all their clothing with it, they covered up their house with it. So all mirrors would be covered in the black crepe.
Wow.
It was believed that vanity had no place in death. So, and there was also an old European belief that if the departing spirit saw itself in a mirror, it could get lost and not reach heaven. Okay.
All right.
They also put the crepe over their door, their front door, so that everyone knew when they came to the door that the house was in mourning. This we've seen in movies. Clocks. They stopped the clocks at the time of the death. All the clocks in the house were stopped at the time of death and remained stopped until the funeral and burial was over. That also happened in Downton Abbey. Did you watch that?
No.
You should. But, yeah, they did that then, too, and that was more like the 20th century, the beginning of the 1900s. But anyway.
Interesting.
They were still doing that
Now,
then.
I do know, like I said, from my Bible studies and stuff, that in the biblical times, there were professional mourners.
That's not something I would want to do for a living.
And when there was the dead, these women would come and they would wail and cry and mourn, and they were professional mourners.
Why did somebody hire them? What was the point?
Again, why do we do all this? But I've not done a deep dive study into that. But yeah, okay. I do say that they had that the people were mourning, and when Jesus visited the girl that had died, there were already mourners there. I mean, bam! And,
they want the spirit to feel like it's being mourned, even if I have to pay somebody to come mourn you, honey.
I guess.
Make sure you're
and
mourned.
He came in and he says, "Why are you all doing this? Why are you all crying and mourning? Because she's not dead." And they all laughed at him.
Yeah.
And then he went in and she was resurrected.
Yeah.
But they had professional. I mean, these people, I guess, are standing
mourners.
around, walking around, looking for people to go and and I'm assuming they're paying them since they're professionals, right?
Wow.
I mean, when you do something for a profession, you get paid for it.
I would think.
So these were, I can't imagine. Boy, she's a good crier. Let's make her a professional mourner.
Yeah, no thanks. That sounds exhausting. But anyway, we need to take a commercial break, and then we will be right back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Pegel's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Pegel Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting the work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
The insurance specialists have options to tailor to your needs at CSI Insurance Brokers. Experienced insurance brokers at CSI are skilled with all types of insurance plans and policies and represent many companies, including Safeco Insurance. You'll benefit from their detailed expertise, unbeatable premiums, and commitment to customer service. CSI Insurance Brokers and Safeco Insurance Company, providing affordable rates on quality insurance since 1952.
For over 50 years, at your locally owned and operated Rural King Supply in Salem and Olney, we've helped you and your neighbors enjoy an easy country lifestyle. We carry the most thorough sporting goods department around with a huge variety of hunting and fishing gear, camping equipment, and a variety of firearms for any need. Our team is here to help you find whatever you need. Open every day, it's Rural King in Salem and Olney, your locally owned farm and home store.
And welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Jim. Today we are talking about mourning and death and how they did things in the 1800s. It's a little gory, little sad,
Yeah,
but
again,
it's history. It's interesting. It's so
history.
different than today.
And it's life.
It is life.
And it's, like I said, as we were talking about during the break, it's, I think it's how people, death is, it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
We all know it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it happens, it's like, how do you deal with it? And different people deal with it in different ways. And so, I don't want to look like, like I joke with my wife. I said, if you go before I do, I'm making 2 phone calls. First one's going to be to the auctioneer, and the second one's going to be to Frankenbright. But there's some people that are going to deal with this stuff, and they're going to, and they have to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how they process this. And some people are different than others. Some people and everybody mourns in a different way.
Right. That's why I think it's sad that they had all these restrictions on this is how you have to mourn.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's a personal journey, and it would be hard to wake up one day and feel like you've made some progress in your mourning, and you're ready. You wake up and you're ready for a fresh new start, but oops, it's only been 11 months, not 12 in a day. I have to wear this black dress for another month.
I got to put this dress on again.
Yes.
Or this suit on again.
Uh-huh.
And it's just odd.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, how we develop
Right.
these
Mm-hmm.
traditions and these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm glad we've gotten away from a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that we don't respect those and we're not paying, okay, let's make a bust. Let's build a statue then and put them in our houses.
Right. Well, this next thing I'm going to talk about is something that we have gotten away from, but in a way I think it's kind of a good thing, and I wouldn't mind if they brought it back. And so a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this.
Okay.
I'm talking about post-mortem photography.
Okay.
Yes. So this was common in the Victorian period to take a picture because they had cameras now for the first time. They've got cameras.
Okay.
And there are photographers about, and they could take pictures of your loved one after they died. And then you would have that picture to remember. So just think about this, though. They didn't have a lot of pictures. So if someone in your family died, you might have never, ever had their photo taken.
Okay.
And you might think, I would really like to have a photo of them so I can always remember exactly how they looked. Because over time, memory fades, and they wanted a photo. I get that. As of doing it today, we all have lots of pictures of ourselves. So depending on the circumstance and how the person died, I don't know. I feel like if you take a picture at a funeral, it shouldn't be looked down upon if you take pictures of somebody that you love. And some people, you're not there, but I can kind of see it in certain cases. I can see it.
Okay, so we're good friends with John Baylor. He takes pictures of all of our stuff. I can't see. Hey, John, come to my funeral come to my wife's funeral and take her picures. And
I just feel like, and it might be healing for you to
some people,
look back over that
maybe.
and be like, okay, and then this happened, and then okay, and then this. I don't know.
I'm on the other side that if you're supposed to remember it, if God's given you that gift to remember, you're going to have that visual, you're going to have that image.
Uh-huh.
And if it's one of your processes that is to be taken away and you're to forget, then it's a natural process.
Well, that's a really good way of looking at it, because I hadn't really looked at it. I just thought at the funeral, if you're so stressed out and you have to shake hands these days. You don't just have like your close family and friends that come to the visitation or the wake. You have, maybe a few hundred people, and you shake all these hands, give all these hugs. Thank you. Yes, they were a wonderful person. Yes, they'll miss. Yes, thank you for your prayers, blah, blah, blah. And you say that the whole 4 hours you're standing there, and then at the end of the day, you go home and you're just like exhausted. And then the next day you're like, who did I even talk to? Were they even there? I don't even remember talking to her. I just feel like if you had some photos to look back, you'd be like, okay. I don't know. I just feel like it might be healing. Maybe not to everybody.
And we sign the book when we go in.
Okay.
So you got names.
Well, that's true. Okay.
You got names of people. But I know there's people that are, and you're probably a sentimentalist. I don't know.
Not super sentimental. Not like some people, but.
Because there's some people that want to keep every little thing.
No.
And they want something. And I guess I take this from my father, because when my grandmother died, they had an auction and everything. And my dad's like, I don't want anything. Everything I need is right here. Okay.
Well.
And so he didn't buy a lot of. But my wife, on the other hand, she's very sentimental, and she wants these things, and she wants to keep these things, and for her, that's okay. All right, that's her way of processing. But for me, it's again, if I'm okay. I've got my memories. I had my memories, and if those are gone, then they just go. They disappear, and that's the way it was intended to be. But I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good that you don't. It's just
a personal thing.
It's everything's personal.
That's right.
And so you're saying, do you have pictures of this?
Yes, so I do. So if this is something that's going to bother you, fast forward, look away. But these are actual pictures of how they did postmortem photography in the 1800s, which was very common. If you go to antique stores, you can still walk about, look through old photographs, and find some of these. A lot of times the person looks alive, but they are simply propped up. So let's, Ty, do you have any of those pictures I sent? Yes. Okay. So this is mother and father with their young daughter who passed away. This is a good example of postmortem photography because these were long exposure photographs. You can tell that the mom and the dad are a little bit more blurry, because they're actually moving tiny bits and breathing. So over the long exposure, just the slight movement, they become blurry. The daughter, on the other hand, see how much clearer and crisper her photograph is?
Her image is.
Her image, yes, she is dead. So this is a good example of postmortem photography. They kind of have her propped up a little bit in the bed, and then they are around her, and then they kind of have her eyes opened. And it looks like the photographer tried to give her a little cheek color just to make her look more alive. But no, this is...
That's not so creepy.
It really isn't.
You see that picture, you don't know that she's deceased.
No, you don't. And sometimes the photographer would draw on the eyes afterwards, which are actually really creepy in some other photos.
I'll bet.
If you start diving into this subject and researching and Googling some of the ones the eyes have been drawn on.
Well, I guess as you're saying, though, if you could tell the quality of whether it's postmortem, is that her image is clear and theirs isn't. So,
that's one clue. There's always some other clues. But I don't find this particularly creepy. I look at it like it's healing for the mother and the father in this pic. Like they clearly wanted this picture of the three of them together, and this was their last chance to get it. Okay. They didn't have an iPhone where they had a lot of selfies.
Right.
Okay. So let's go to the next one, Ty. Okay. So this is 5 siblings here. The youngest is passed away, and the 4 older ones are set to pose with her, and they have her probably most likely propped up with almost like a metal stand like you would use for a doll back behind her, and there was probably somebody kind of at her feet helping hold her up as well. Very sad. They all, even the older children, all look slightly traumatized and sad. And but again, this had to be healing because the mother or father, whomever, wanted to have a picture of the 5 of their kids.
And that might,
as you
say, that might have been the only opportunity they had.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So sad but true. This is common back then. Let's keep going. Is there more, Ty? I don't remember how many I sent. Those are the only two. Okay. I think I passed on the others because I didn't want to offend like our viewers and gross everyone out. But if that's something that you're interested in looking up, just Google it. But if that's something you never want to see again, then don't Google that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, if you don't know those people, it's probably easier to look at those. But it's not something I'm going to go looking for. And if I see that in an antique store, I'm probably not going to buy it and put it in my house. Kind of creepy.
Right. No, I wouldn't want that in my house at all. But it was common, particularly with children, because they wanted to remember those kids, and they lost so many parents lost child after child after child.
Yes.
Well,
and that would be, that's something that you're never going to get over.
No.
And no. I don't care how bad your memory is or anything. You're just not going to get over that. And so that, again, like you were saying, back then, you just didn't have pictures taken all the time.
Right.
Not everybody had a camera.
Right.
It was a professional thing.
No, they didn't.
And so,
yeah.
And that might have been their only opportunity to get all the children. And so I understand that.
Right.
In today's times,
maybe not so much.
Everybody's got a phone.
Yeah.
And everybody's got pictures. And,
better to remember the good times than the bad.
Yeah, but like I said.
Yeah. Well, I was going to also dive into some local funeral homes during this, but I really don't have time to do that. We have another episode planned where we're going to talk about cemeteries and stuff, so I'll get more into the funeral homes there. But we always end the show with a rule to live by, which I don't really have today, but I have a few Victorian death superstitions.
Okay.
Not a great way to end the show, but since the whole show's kind of been mourning and sadness, let's just go with omens of death. Ringing in the left ear means a death that day.
Okay.
Just don't want your ear to ring, especially your left one.
All right.
A bird in the house means a death in the family. Don't let any birds in.
Okay.
A black crow in your path means a death will take place. And death comes in threes.
I've heard that.
I've heard that one. And honestly, there's a little bit, that can happen. Like, it seems like it really does happen sometimes.
And I think, or they say bad things come in threes, which death is a bad thing.
Right.
But,
I think there's something to that.
Have you ever got that shiver up your spine?
Yeah.
And you don't know where it comes from?
Somebody walking on your grave?
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's what I always heard in grade school. Like, if you had that, you're like, oh, somebody just walked across your grave. But what does that mean? I don't have a grave yet. My future
That's
grave?
where you're going to be.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Somebody walked across your future burial spot.
Oh.
Which, I guess, so we talked about that, too, about cremation.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
I don't know.
When
you don't get the shivers, I guess.
So I don't know. Interesting. But
well,
those are all things that surround death.
Yes.
And it's like I said, it's as natural as, if you're born,
you're going to die.
You're going to die. Let's just be honest about it. But at the same time,
right.
That's the hard part, is the death part. And like I said, we talked about that, processing it and how people do it. And this is one way they did it. And
right.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, it's part of history.
And that's why we're talking about
it. And that's why we talked about it. And so now you know a little bit more.
Now you know a little bit more about how they mourned for their loved ones in the 1800s. So a little different show, but interesting. When I found this book, I thought,
you probably picked this because I was here, because Stacy had probably been creeped out.
Oh, she and I talked about it. She totally would have done it. But then when I told her, I'm like, oh, this will be what I talk about when Jim's here. She's like, oh, perfect. He'll be great for that. So anyway, thanks for joining us on By the Way. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.